I'm out looking pretty shiny this video. I have today cleared out my garage, which means that I'm going to set up a new sort of studio-like space, and then I'm going to start filming different videos, so some shorts, maybe even longer videos on the same topics as the shorts. So specifically I'm thinking about books right now because I want to make some book shorts because I love reading and I want to talk about them a little bit more, talk about books a little bit more. And yeah, it's really exciting because it's forward movement, and I'm super excited to get started with doing that. Hopefully I might film my first video tomorrow. I'm going to give it a go and we'll see if I have the time or not. In this video I'm just going to quickly talk about weird COVID memories that I have, because I found this thing in my garage when I was looking there. Actually, separate point, in my garage I noticed that some of I had some old clothes in there that I didn't want, and they were sort of just on the floor, and I noticed that it was kind of like chewed up, and I was like, oh no, I've got rats or something. And I was kind of keeping an eye out as I was moving stuff around, and then I lifted this tripod bag in the corner, and yes, a mouse appeared. I'm glad it was a mouse rather than a rat. I think maybe just because, are they more likely to be on their own? I don't know, but it was on its own, which was a blessing. It crawled off and went under some stuff in the corner, and I proceeded to move everything that could be chewed on off the floor, and now it's not. And I was a bit, I wondered what I should do about it, because I do want to make it a bit of a studio space, and I was worried whether this would get in the way. And then I thought, you know what, after a conversation with my dad, because I'm not going to hurt it in any way, I'm not going to lay any traps, because I don't want to hurt an animal. I will not do that if I can avoid it, at least. So I just thought, you know what, I've got a friend, I've got company now in my new studio, and maybe I will name that space, if I'm even going to name it. What would I name it? But if I do name it, I'll name it specifically as the space of me and whatever his name is or her name is. So what I found, COVID related, is this letter from the company that I was subcontracting for during, let's see the date, 2020, 25th March 2020. So we're talking around the time when COVID finally started to be taken seriously by the government, and they said that they would stop you if you were out, and you shouldn't be out, and you shouldn't be going out unless, I think what were they called? Something workers, like important workers, or I don't know. There was a name for it, like highly important workers. You know, a synonym of that. And I wasn't necessarily. I was just landscaping at the time. I had a bunch of sites, and I've got this letter. Right, I'm going to read it to you. To whom it may concern, this is to confirm and certify that Mr. Jack Washington is a bona fide member of this company's staff. I wasn't. I was a subcontractor, but whatever. We are legally contracted and therefore legally obliged to carry out grounds maintenance and exterior cleaning operations on behalf of our valuable clients, and then a list of the clients, and then also a list of my sites. Finally, this authorization has been approved by our chairman, as part of our obligatory business continuity plan in accordance with the BSI. Yeah, wild. And I still have this letter. I'm so glad I found it, because it was in a place where it could have easily been lost. And I just remember, I don't know why my job kept going, because I would go on the M25, which is the road that circles London, and I would go on the M25 and it would just be me for miles. Like, I'm talking probably 2-3 other vehicles within this a sort of like 1-2 mile distance. It was odd. So obviously I was never catching up with them, and the road was just seeming empty. It was fully bizarre. And not only that, I'd go, I know everyone's got their own experiences of the streets being dead, but I'd go and do my site in Brighton town and the street would just be completely dead. And it's so crazy to think we lived through that. It's so crazy to think that most people will never live through something similar, and it all just feels like a fever dream now. But it wasn't. It fully happened. There was one site that I had. It was called Radius House, right? And it was these office buildings that surrounded like a lake in the middle, and on the lake sometimes there'd be birds and swans and stuff, and geese. And at one point, so I had this whole summer where basically no one was working there because all the office workers work from home. It was amazing. None of the clients were coming out, so they weren't even checking my work. I still carried on doing my work to a high standard, but I didn't have to worry about them coming out, even though how is it going to damage them to come and view a site? I don't know. And over the course of about 3 weeks, I just had wildlife galore. There was a fox that was scurrying about. The swans used to come onto the site. There were these mallards. I think they were mallards, like little duck things. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience. I think it was around that time I got stung by a wasp on this site, and I had this hat on, like you can imagine an Australian wearing, where it kind of circles around a sun hat, and I got stung on the back of my leg, which swelled up, really, really huge, and was really painful, man, like really painful. Sometimes you get stung, it doesn't hurt. Sometimes you get stung and it kills. And then I got stung on the back of my head as well. And I remember just getting my hat and just throwing it on the floor and launching my head cutter as well. But looking back, those days landscaping those sites may well have been some of the most peaceful times of my life in terms of work. It was an amazing period. And I think it's very easy to forget about that stuff already, like a really crazy time, and yet life just keeps moving forward, and those memories, they get compartmentalized in your brain, but also they kind of shrink in terms of how often you think about them. And I would never have thought that would be the case given how extreme a situation that was. I'd love to hear your COVID memories like that. I'm sure I have more. I remember when I first thought I got it was early on. I didn't have it, or at least I tested and it didn't come up, and I took a week off work or whatever. But I just kept working all the way through, and there was part of me that begrudged that a bit, because a lot of people didn't have to work and were still getting paid. I know other people lost their jobs, which is far worse, or were furloughed and got rubbish pay. But I just kept working all the way through, and the anxiety of the initial COVID period, when we didn't know how serious it was going to be, it weighed on me a lot at the beginning, and then once I got over it a bit, it was fine. But I was very tired because I never got to stop while seeing a lot of people around me getting these big long breaks, and I am kind of jealous of that. But then I'm not jealous of the fact that I got to go out on the roads when there was no one there, and there are very few people that will have experienced that. And yeah, I'm very grateful for having that experience. Like I said, I'll leave it there. Tell me in the comments your COVID experiences like that, if you have any. I'm sure everyone has some. And cool, I'll catch you tomorrow for another video, and hopefully you're going to start seeing a lot more different formats of videos on this channel, and I might even branch out and start sharing them elsewhere. That kind of side of it, the admin of that takes up a lot of time that, you know, in the past I've done, and it's a lot of work, and it's also it's mind-numbing work. It's not exactly inspiring to do, so I won't bring too much of that in yet, because it will put me off a little bit. Alright, that's it. Bye bye.